Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Wednesday, the 18th day of June 2025. I hope you're all safe and healthy today. I hope your families are safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the area of health that are trying to help people heal, help people recover, help people be comfortable in times of stress and physical illness. And those that work with them, generally first responders who put themselves on the line every day in attempts to save and preserve life. Blessings upon them. Blessings on those that pick up garbage, keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women that are here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover teenagers and children, victims of child molestation and pedophilia. Helping those that are victims of prostitution, child prostitution, pornography, child pornography, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Double curses upon the perpetrators, the profiteers, and those perverts that create the tremendous demands that cause these industries to exist. Finally, double blessings on the homeless. More than 700,000 men, women, children, families, senior citizens, and military veterans homeless in the United States of America. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Today I want to talk about, yesterday I saw a report. I won't say the platform because most of them are BS. But I saw a report where they're taking odds from gambling places like Las Vegas, and the odds are stronger for Mike Brown to be coach than Tyler Jenkins. Based on what I've already reported myself on videos recently, I prefer Tyler Jenkins. And as I always stress, that doesn't matter because the Don is going to choose who he prefers. So, what I've noticed also, and this is typical of media, and typical particularly of Knicks media, any situation is an opportunity for somebody to give their opinion, usually negative, about the New York Knicks, either the organization, the owner, the front office, a coach, a player. It is the default position to be negative against the Knicks. This channel, as I try to stress to people who still don't get it because you're so used to the brainwashing of the negative media, that you can't come on my channel talking negative about the Knicks. This channel is for the Knicks and with the Knicks in everything they do, which means that if they were to choose Mike Brown as their head coach, I would not be happy about that, but I would be supportive of Mike Brown. I would be positive about Mike Brown. So what I did in anticipation of that possibility is I went back and I looked at as many YouTube video clips of interviews of Mike Brown as I could, especially in the 2 years before he got fired. He got fired this past season. I think he started off 13 and 18 or something like that, and they fired him and replaced him with Doug Christie for the Kings this year. But I went back to the season before this, which was 23-24, and then 22-23, which he had 48 wins and 46 wins. And understanding what I already mentioned, his defense, his philosophies are not the best. One of the issues, we'll put on the positive side with Mike Brown, he's no nonsense. So if something sucks, he's going to say it sucks. But his ability to positively coach effective defense has never been strong, and it's not strong now. He's a better offensive coach than he is a defensive coach. I think once in the last 3 years, the Kings were number one in offensive rating. So he coaches offense. Offense does not win championships. A lot of people will go all crazy because they're going to see pace increase, they're going to see scoring, they're going to see ball movement, and they'll be excited. But then they'll be just as frustrated when the Knicks cannot get a stop. And you need stops to win championships. So I'm not happy. I wouldn't be happy with the Mike Brown pick, but I would hope that it would still work out for us. That's my hope. Because the thing is, what I did see that I do like about Mike Brown in all of the years that he was with the Kings, and I'm using only that, even though he has coached the Lakers before, he has coached the Cleveland Cavaliers before, there's certain things that coaches take with them, certain philosophies, certain ways of doing business. And then you also have to give room for the coach to develop himself and grow. And they do. The coaches try to do that. Especially if you're still coaching in the league, you have to be effective. Nobody's going to pay you money to coach. And that's what they're doing. They're paying millions of dollars for a coach. And that's typical in the NBA. They're not going to do that unless they have very strong confidence that you can come through and help their organization move forward. So Mike Brown has coached in Cleveland. He's coached and head coach in Cleveland, head coach in the Lakers, and head coach recently at Sacramento. I like to look at the most recent because that would represent his growth, as well as, it represents everything, his philosophies. It represents his growth as a coach in the NBA and his development and how he handles things. So I looked at Sacramento. Now, Sacramento is not exactly a carbon copy of the Knicks, but they have very similar things. For example, I was looking at his usage of Davion Mitchell, because Davion Mitchell is the defensive guy coming off the bench, or was. He's now with Miami, but he's a defensive guy coming off the bench for Mike Brown, because that gives me an indication of how he would use Deuce McBride. Okay, so in the 2 years that he had Davion Mitchell, Mitchell came off the bench. Mitchell appeared in almost every game except if he was hurt, like 72 games a year. He started like 9 games one year based on injury, maybe to De'Aaron Fox or whoever. And so I expect that usage with Deuce McBride. He also had Sabonis. Sabonis, a very gifted offensive player in the NBA, talented rebounder also, but not a strong defender. Remind you of somebody? Just like Karl Anthony Towns. Okay? Then he had a ball-dominant guard that was offensive force, not a great defender, De'Aaron Fox. Then he had scoring coming off the bench with Malik Monk. Now, that could be Deuce. I don't know. We'll find out. But I saw how he handled his personnel. Now, like I said, they've never been top-notch defensively. He has been very good offensively. He really stresses spacing and ball movement offensively. I see that he has picked up knowledge from his time working with Steve Kerr on the offensive end of the floor. So you can expect that to be part of the Knicks' new schemes offensively. Defensively, he stresses keeping the ball out of the center of the floor, keeping it out of the paint, and knowing where your help comes from. He stresses IQ on the defensive side of the basketball. So he believes, and I heard him actually say these things. They were interviewing about his defensive philosophy, and he was saying how, you can be less than talented physically, but if your IQ is such that you understand where your help is coming from, you can still be an effective team defender. I like that, but the results have not been stellar. Okay, he might believe that, but he has not been able to inculcate that belief into action on the floor. So that, and generally, another negative I saw was, whereas Tom Thibodeau took, and again, Tibbs, Eric Spoelstra, Taylor Jenkins, guys that are defensive oriented, their teams finish stronger than they start. Brown's teams start better than they finish. So early part of the season, he might have 6, 7, 8 game winning streak. Then teams adjust to him, and he has a struggle coming down the stretch. That's been his MO. So I'm going to be positive, and I hope all of you will also be positive. This is our team. If he is hired, he'll be our coach. I may not like it, but I do want to say also, he has never had, there's certain things he hasn't had. He hasn't had an offensive rebounding center like Mitchell Robinson. He's never had that. Sabonis is capped in terms of rebounding. Strong rebounder, strong body dude, big dude, uses his size to get rebounds and be physical. That's capped. He hasn't had a Mitchell Robinson. He's had a Davion Mitchell, which means he's had somebody like Deuce McBride. He's had De'Aaron Fox, which means he's had somebody like Jalen Brunson. He's had that. He's had very IQ defensive-oriented forwards. He had Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes. And now he's going to have OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. I happen to think the Bridges and Anunoby combination is better than the Barnes Keegan Murray combination for several reasons. I think both of those guys are just as high. The thing about all four of those players is they're very high IQ basketball players. But Barnes is more crafty because of, he's more crafty. He's got a lot of time in the league. Whereas OG is more physically overwhelming because he's big and strong and tenacious and a 7-foot wingspan. He can be physically overwhelming to who he's guarding. That's why we call him game time, grown-ass man energy, because he can do that. Then, of course, Mikal Bridges will run a John Havlicek type game. He's going to run all game, okay? He's going to run you on the floor. You're going to have to chase him. That's why I call him the road runner. He's going to run all game, okay? So they're two different things. Both of them 7-foot wingspans. Both of them use their wingspans. They play differently, but I happen to think that the forward combination on the wing we have is better than what anything Michael Brown had before in that position on defense. So I'm saying all that to say, hopefully, because of the increase in talent level on the Knicks over the Sacramento Kings, he will be able to take advantage of that if the Knicks hire him. He'll be able to take advantage of that and improve on the defensive end of the floor. He'll have Mitchell Robinson, he'll have Deuce McBride, he'll have Josh Hart, he'll have OG, he'll have Mikal. And again, he still I'm hoping they bring back Landry Shamet, as I mentioned yesterday, with DeLon Wright, two very solid defensive guards in the NBA, very solid pros on that end of the floor. And so I'm hoping they bring them back as well. And I still really have hopes for Precious Achiuwa, because Precious Achiuwa plays defense. Okay? He plays defense. He can guard all 5 positions on the floor. He's guarded guys like Embiid successfully, and he can switch on a point guard. And so a guy with switchability like that's very, very attractive in the NBA and very valuable. Okay? So I'm hoping we bring him back. Then there's young guys like Marc-Andre Beauchamp, and of course Ariel Huport. So we'll see how they fit in. But I guess I'm trying to use this video to prepare you and me, for the possibility that they hire Mike Brown. I still lean toward Taylor Jenkins, and I looked at many videos on his philosophy and on what he does, both offensively and defensively, and I have to say, to me, X's and O's, he's better than Mike Brown. Imposing his will for his team to perform on the defensive end, he's better than Mike Brown. And his offensive scheme is just as good as Mike Brown. He stresses spacing, ball movement, all of that, okay? And he's a motivator. I've listened to him talk on the sidelines. He's a motivator, a good motivator. Mike Brown is too. Both of them are. But to me, Taylor Jenkins checks more boxes. And he also, the good thing about both of these guys, they're both no nonsense. They ain't going to give you no side talk like David Fizdale did. They're going to be straight up, tell you what's going on, whether it's good or bad. I like that about Brown. Because in other words, if they wanted to fire him because he ain't doing the job, he'll just pack his stuff and go. That's it. Okay? So we'll see. But I'm trying to prepare us for the possibility of Mike Brown, though I favor Taylor Jenkins over Mike Brown. We'll see. Taylor Jenkins apparently is the first one they're interviewing. I don't like that. I like him being the last one they're interviewing. But sometimes it works out well. The first guy you interview, they decide already, and they just had a courtesy interview the second guy. They did that with Mike Brown before. They had already decided on Tom Thibodeau, and they interviewed Mike Brown anyway, but they had already decided on Tom Thibodeau. So Mike Brown was as a courtesy, and they were high on the interview. There was very positive things coming out of the interview, but they hired Tom Thibodeau, which I'm glad about. So I'm just trying to prepare us because I feel like we're going to get a decision soon. You're not going to have to wait long. We're going to get a decision soon on this. I've been saying before the draft, they'll have a coach. I still stick with that. The draft is a week from today. I think they'll have a coach by then. They'll have named a coach. So it's going to be, whatever happens. One thing about media with the Knicks in New York, whatever happens, there's going to be blowback, positive and negative. Everybody's going to be real loud, especially the negative nannies. They're going to be real loud, regardless. There's going to be a whole bunch of question marks, no matter who they hire. If they hire Taylor Jenkins, there'll be a whole bunch of negative articles about how we don't know what we're going to get, blah, blah, blah. There'll be, if they hire Mike Brown, there'll be another whole bunch of negative articles. This channel is going to be positive regardless. If they're coaching the orange and blue, if they're going to be on the sidelines at MSG, the most difficult sideline to stand on in the NBA, we're going to be behind their back. Okay? Y'all enjoy your Wednesday. Sure.